How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about 7 Days to Die once again. For those of you who aren't aware what the game is about, it's essentially a survival game where you have to survive a zombie apocalypse. You have to build up a base. Everything is voxel-based, so much like Minecraft, you can create really customized structures in the game. There was a lot of tedious work associated with it, such as chopping down trees and digging mines and stuff like that. But by and large, I find it extremely compelling for its short-term goals. Like basically every 7 days, you'll get a zombie horde, and that sort of compels you to shore up your defenses against it. It's much less open-ended, I feel, than a lot of open-world games like this generally are, with the crafting and all that stuff. And that's what I found particularly interesting. You might notice that most of the games I play actually have some chance of failure to it. I'm not exactly sure how to put that, but the games that I like are the ones that generally have the ability for you to die in it, but at the same time I enjoy the economy building aspect. So being able to build up, shore up defenses, and then basically hold out against a siege has always appealed to me, regardless of the format. You know, you think back to games like Stronghold, any of the strongholds really, you can build up a stronghold. You got your castle, you can determine exactly the best defense for that the terrain, all that kind of stuff. That's fun. And then you just wait until that last invasion comes and you hope that it holds up. Tower defense is sort of the same thing. I also like tower defense games. And more recently, it sort of moved into first-person survival. I really, really dug it. I didn't expect to, but I got into it. And one of the things you'll know that if you sort of do anything, if you do work-related stuff in gaming, you'll learn that the more time you spend working on it, the fewer games you actually end up playing. Or because like when I make a video about something, it has to have a point. Like I can't usually just play a game. I have to be thinking constantly about the game. I have to be making notes about the game. And there's just a whole lot of overhead associated with that. It's difficult to just sit down and enjoy a game. Now, obviously, this is not as much the case if you're making simple playthroughs of a game, but even then, you have to be thinking. You have to be in the right mental state to be able to provide adequate commentary. You want to be able to say something insightful or interesting or funny about the game that you're playing. Nobody just wants to really watch a playthrough of a game that the person playing it is silent the entire time. Now, there are people who do that, but that's not going to set you apart from the crowd, basically. Like anybody can really do that. If you're fairly competent at the game, you're going to be able to get through it. The challenge comes into it is providing something in addition to that gameplay, using it as a platform to launch off of, and that is why it's difficult to just sit down and enjoy a game when you try to make daily content. I know I don't always uphold on that front, but it was the goal, I guess you could say, to make something new every single day. And yeah, I got sidetracked a little bit. It happens. Still try to keep up with it, and that's why we're getting videos about what I did my last 6 hours playing 7 Days to Die. So you may be paying attention to the video. You see I got myself a little base set up there. Trying out some new designs, really, because one of the things is that I'm spooked a little easily by these things, but originally I had set up my base on top of a building. It was a nice building. It had nice concrete walls, very sturdy, lots of hit points on them. Kind of figured out that I didn't actually enjoy fortifying a huge building. These buildings were big, and if you want to actually protect it against zombies, you're not going to be able to do it with a simple bow and arrow. You're going to want to put down some killing pit traps. And when you have a big building, it's like maybe 4 times, 5 times, 6 times as big as the building that I'm currently on in this video, you just don't get a lot of coverage for the same amount of effort. So you go out there, you chop down your trees, and then you craft them into killing pits or spikes or spike traps, whatever they call them. It's pretty much all the same. You get the point. And maybe you get 2 layers worth after 3 days of grinding it out. And that doesn't seem like a very good return on investment when most likely the bulk of the zombies are going to hit you from one single side and probably one single location on that side. So the overall footprint, it just does not correspond too well to the amount of effort you just put in putting all these spikes down. So I wanted to try something different, restarted a few times. There's a rather interesting story about me and a lumberjack. So basically, like I think it was the start or 2 starts before this one, 1 or 2 starts before this one. Could have been the previous one. I started in the snow biome because basically the world is composed of several different biomes. If you think about like Don't Starve, there are different biomes in the world. Same thing here. They have unique features associated with them. Snow, it's very cold. You can dig up the snow and cook it over a campfire to get water. With a desert biome, like it can get really hot, and that's always a challenge to deal with because you overheat in the game. Heat does play a factor. But so I started in the snow biome. Things were going really, really well. And then I had this idea that, hey, what I should be doing is there are these wonderful light poles that are nice and tall, and I should build a base on top of one of them. So I guess what they call it is nerd poling, where basically you just jump up and then place boxes underneath you. I did that all the way to the top, knocked the lamp off of it, so it was a nice flattened pole, just a pole going up in the air, no longer had a light on it. And I built my little base up there on top of it. And then I nerd poled my way back down, and then came the challenge of actually having to build like a staircase structure going up to it, because I didn't want to have to nerd pull my way up and down every single time I needed to get off of there. And I realized that I was going to have to build a pretty decent like truss. Would it be a truss? It's a basic structure that had to support the entire stairs. Like if you see in the video that I'm watching, I have a little stairs going up to my current platform. And it was really, really big because I hadn't realized how ridiculously tall the pole itself, the light pole actually was that I built my base on. So I built it all up, got it done by the time night falls. And the reason you want to get it done before night falls is because, well, the zombies start running after dark, and they're basically as fast as the player running. So you can find yourself in a bit of a pickle if you don't find a nice place to fortify on. Obviously, the good players are able to sort of like urban combat their way through it, just street running and stuff like that, and fighting off of cars and whatnot. But I didn't want to do that, so I got the base set up, all that good stuff, and then probably about 4 a.m. in the morning, maybe it was 0.3. A lumberjack zombie comes along and starts beating on the bottom of the pole, and I hadn't provided any defenses around it, so he was just going to be able to take it down. So I run down there, and I attempt to kite him into some of the killing pits that I placed on the fly. Didn't happen. It was pretty tense because the lumberjack zombies are some of the fastest around, I believe. So eventually he killed me, and then I basically respawned on top of the light pole base, and surprise, surprise, the lumberjack zombie is there wailing away at it once again, and I have to find a way to deal with that. I eventually did get him to run into the killing pits like I wanted. He did bite to dust, but I realized that the model wasn't sustainable. It was basically just way too tall, and so I basically scrapped it. Decided to build another base. It was kind of like this one here, but then it started snowing really bad, and I wanted to enclose it. Started building walls on it, and then I realized that the whole thing just sort of caved in on me, and that's when I quit. The reason it caved in is because structural integrity is actually a thing in here. You can only attach so many blocks onto the sides of other blocks without them falling in. So that's another aspect to it that I find interesting, because you can't just basically build out into the middle of nowhere and then have that long line of blocks connected to the base or to the ground like 5 miles away from your current location. So there's a lot of good stuff going on there. So this isn't, like if you noticed here, this base that I'm standing on shooting at stuff from, this is not my actual base. This is basically just a killing pit base. The actual base has the forge, and it has a campfire, and it has chests with all my stuff in it. And the reason I decided not to use that one is because, or the reason I decided not to make this one my base is because I figured there are only four legs holding this entire thing together, and if one of them comes down, the entire base might come down, and I really wasn't willing to have all of my work just lost over such a thing. So I figured, if I decide that a zombie is actually going to bring the whole thing down, I can just jump off and run back to my original base and sort of regroup there and continue fending off the assault. Overall, this design proved successful. One of the things that I didn't expect to hear is basically the entire assault came within the first couple of hours, 3 hours, and the rest of the night was quite uneventful, interestingly enough. So just something to keep in mind. I put some torches around the sides of it, lit it up quite nicely. I think it's aesthetically appealing. Nice bright lights, you can see what you're doing. You got your grate in the middle, so you can look down at the killing pits underneath you. If there are some zombies that get through and are running around down there, you can shoot at them with your bow and arrow. Seems to be a pretty decent design. Basically, this is just filler content because I didn't do anything else of note. I basically just played 7 Days to Die for the last couple of days. So I hope that I found a way to somehow integrate it into a lot of what my channel is about, but that's up for you to decide ultimately. Let me know if you actually would like to see more of this type of content. If you hate it and want me to go back to strictly strategy or something, fair enough. Just gotta try out different things because otherwise you really don't learn anything new. So anyway, yeah, that's 7 Days to Die and my thoughts on my most recent playthrough, sort of what I've been doing. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.